Awesome. Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Tim and here today with Kevin.
Yes, Kevin Briggs.
And today we're very excited to talk about opportunities to look for cost savings and efficiencies, specifically in the public sector, especially with cloud SaaS operations. So to kick things off, just for those of you who may or may not be familiar with AvePoint, Kevin will give you a quick recap about who we are and what we do.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you all today. AvePoint Public Sector is an organization that's been a part of AvePoint for a number of years. And I first want to talk about why I came to AvePoint, actually. I worked at companies like Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, and Qualtrics. And one of the things I observed in my work there at Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, and Qualtrics is the struggle for solutions and technology to work at scale, because data and managing data can be a struggle.
Yep.
Right. Getting data to operate for you, to collaborate amongst teams. There's a challenge to unlock this potential. And I saw this opportunity to work for a company, and an organization, AvePoint Public Sector, that exists to help organizations improve efficiency and trust with data, to unlock the potential of data, to unlock the transformation of knowledge, transforming data into knowledge and knowledge into power, to really achieve that scale. So AvePoint Public Sector, over 2 million users interact with our platform on a daily basis, across more than 400 organizations. The platform is a SaaS platform, software as a service. It is a platform that is FedRAMP authorized, and we support up to DoD impact level 5 and 6. So just a little bit about who AvePoint is and what we do and why I came here, and really to really unlock the potential of how we use that data for government services.
Yeah, and it's really timely. And you didn't know about the AI boom before you joined, but that was actually very good timing, because we've been in the space of doing data management, data security, data control for nearly 2 decades now, over 2 decades, I think. So quite some time. And previously, that's been kind of it's almost a stick conversation, like, oh, you have to get your data in order, otherwise compliance and regulation and that sort of thing. But what we've seen recently is that's now turned into a carrot, where organizations, agencies are recognizing the value of their data for AI, the value of data readiness for AI, but we need to do this in a way that's cost saving and efficient, right? Which brings us on to what we'd like to talk about in today's session. So essentially, what we'll do is cover some industry background in terms of why we're here, what are some of the challenges and opportunities in cloud costs across the industry in general that we're seeing, but also specifically in the public sector. And Kevin's got some great examples to share there. And then we'll talk about our SLIM approach, how to slim your cloud storage and cloud data. So that's an approach consisting of looking at your storage, your licensing, and your infrastructure management. And this is an approach that we use with many clients to help them reduce their SaaS footprint, to improve their operations, reduce overhead, and ultimately get other benefits like reducing your posture area for security management, right? So we'll talk through some of that and show you how we do that and how we've helped some clients with that. And the takeaway from this is you'll have some practical suggestions and examples at the end of this on ways to save costs, while also getting additional benefits. Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why we're here first. So one of the things that we're seeing is that a lot of organizations have moved from their traditional legacy on-prem systems. Many still have them in place, but many have also moved up into the cloud. And in this subscription SaaS first kind of industry, we've noticed that many organizations today are managing over 125 different SaaS apps. Okay, and these could be for anything from, you've got your core digital workplace apps for collaboration, but even a lot of point solutions for things like data resiliency or data management or data security. So what we're seeing is that SaaS spend is continuing to grow by 15 to 20% annually. And this is from that Gartner report. And on average, we're seeing a total spend of over $1,000 per employee annually, just on managing different SaaS apps. And that has impacts on the bottom line too. So organizations that are not proactively managing their SaaS environment will end up spending 73% more on their deployments. So if you think about all the different systems that you have in your organization, all the different expertise that you need to manage them and keep them under control, the different kinds of point solutions and tools that need to work across the different environments, not to mention things like productivity costs from users, having to context switch between applications, having to search multiple repositories. I mean, we've seen it here. Even though we're pretty much a Microsoft SharePoint first organization where we haven't had a file share in over a decade and everything's in the cloud, even then for us, we've had multiple different SaaS apps pop up over the years, which find our team having to go to multiple URLs to try and find what they're doing. And ultimately, this continues adding to the overhead and adding to the spend. So one of the things that we see in that is by eliminating your redundant SaaS solutions and looking for ways to do things like cut licensing costs or reduce your IT overhead, we can see immediately some of the advantages that you get are a 60% reduction in licensing costs by consolidating multiple platforms. So this means, taking multiple collaboration systems into something like a Microsoft 365, or reducing separate point solutions into a single platform. But similarly, you'll see a 40% reduction in IT management costs as well, both in terms of overhead and effort spent on things. Whether that's device management reduces by 24%, as well as being able to save costs through consolidation. But in addition to just costs, the other benefit of this is that this improves your security and your management posture too. So again, from this same Forrester report, they found that not only by consolidating and reducing your SaaS footprint saves you costs and saves you licensing costs, it also gives you a 45% reduction in data breach because, again, you're reducing the surface area. Similarly, a 50% overall reduction in security management costs as well, because you're not having to have different tools and different specialties to manage the security of different entry points and access points throughout the system. You're being able to consolidate it through there. So, Kevin, do you want to share us a bit of an example of where you've seen this in action with one of the agencies you work with?
Yeah, both in federal and state and local government agencies that we work with. One of the things, Tim, that we've seen a lot of is customers that come to us to use a platform.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of choices of great technology out there, and even building it on your own using native technologies that you might have within your environment right now. The customers have come to us and they've come to us for helping them move data, helping them manage the data, and helping them measure the data productivity, ROI, that they're getting out of the use of technology like Microsoft 365 or AI applications or scenarios, even like Copilot now. One particular customer that we've been working with for a number of years, there was a couple of things that they found, and you can see here on the slide that's shown is over $7 million of annual savings by automating and managing data using our platform. A partnership that we very much appreciate and continue to grow is, there's a couple of things that we've been able to accomplish, and that is one, preserve the data, protect the data, all on the platform, mission critical data preservation, data restoration, movement of employees that might be going in and out of the organization. We're preserving over a petabyte of data for this group. The second is automation and workforce enhancements. Automation of the management of data across workspaces. A workspace could be a OneDrive instance, it could be a SharePoint instance, or space. The automation of management and auditing tasks that have to happen to ensure compliance, access control. We've been able to save tens of thousands of hours, right, by using the platform to bring that information to automate those tasks.
Yes.
So that's huge for savings for this organization. And then third and finally, is data this is citizen data. This is government data. We have to protect that data, and there's compliance around that. So we have integrity in data and how it's used for government services. So adherence to administration requirements, federal mandates, law. Preservation of records. That's a key thing that we're able to accomplish in an automated manner using the platform. So again, what we've been able to do for customers is help them move and modernize data, manage the data, and then measure the data. And you can see the results of that here with this government customer, and where we've been able to help them preserve data, automate workforce enhance automate and enhance the workforce, and then also have regulatory compliance behind that.
Yeah, I love that. I love how the example is, some of the challenges were meeting that regulatory compliance and doing it at scale, which you mentioned at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Being able to do that across large petabyte data sets. But by doing so, not only are they meeting the compliance, but they're saving costs at the same time as well. And we have the figures to prove that.
Yeah.
That's big. All right, so let's talk about how we approach this. So one way to approach it, as Kevin was saying, is from that regulatory angle. So we work with organizations that have a compliance challenge or something they're trying to meet, and we're approaching from that automation angle. But another way to approach it is from that cost angle. So we do have organizations that come to us with some overhead challenges, with some spend challenges. They're trying to rebalance their priorities, and this is where we have a framework to help them out. So we jokingly calling it the SLIM, because obviously acronyms are all the rage at the moment. However, this framework is something that we've been doing for quite a while in terms of when an organization comes to us and says, hey, we have all these cloud tools, we have multiple disparate cloud systems, maybe M365 and Box and Google and some other ones, and we've also got this batch of licenses and that batch of licenses, and by the way, we did a migration a little while ago, so we've got like a petabyte of data in the system. Where can we save? Where can we save some costs and efficiencies? Mm-hmm. This is the framework we go through. So the acronym SLIM stands for storage. Just close this down. Stands for storage, licensing, and infrastructure management. And there's a few areas between each of those which we'll break out in the next session. But essentially, one of the first ways is to look at how your storage is being allocated. If you've got storage overages, especially on cloud platforms like Microsoft 365, you do get a base allocation of storage. And when you go over that, there is overages that need to be paid. So you can look at ways to reduce that. But also, storage costs compound, right? As you build up more storage, a lot of organizations, their resilience strategy is just back up everything. Maybe that's not the best solution, and maybe that's not the most cost-effective solution. So that's what we'll have a look at about both in terms of data discovery and action, and streamline data protection. Then, of course, we've got the license management and license optimization. How do we get visibility into what licenses are being used? Where is our license spend going? Can we break that down by department, do chargebacks, and are they actually being allocated effectively, which we'll talk about. And then finally, infrastructure management. And this is obviously that one's a big topic. We can talk about things like consolidation, migration. We can talk about some of the automation processes that Kevin was talking about before. So we'll touch on migration just a little bit. I think most people are familiar with it, so we don't have to go too deep, but we will talk a little bit about some of the savings from consolidation, how to approach it, as well as rationalizing some of that infra. So that's what we're going to be going through today. So let's kick things off with optimizing storage. So specifically talking about information lifecycle management. So one of the big challenges that we see today for a number of organizations is that data keeps growing at an exponential rate, right? Billions of documents are created daily. This is being exacerbated now by AI-generated content and AI-generated documents. So as agents enter the workforce more, as we're using tools like Copilot, which is now GCC ready, to help generate tools and information, and hook up Copilot actions to help create weekly reports and do other stuff. Information is getting created at a breakneck pace. And what that means is this is challenges not just beyond storage, but also about how we can actually efficiently manage that, and manage that with a cost-effective way. Okay.
Yeah. Tim, we're working with both state and local government customer recently and also a federal agency. And I was thinking about it, it's almost like spring cleaning with my wife at my house. It's like, you can decide to take stuff and donate it. You can throw it away. You can reorganize it in your closet. You can reorganize it smartly by, labeling it and making it all nice and neat. And, it's kind of what we're seeing with some customers that we're engaged with, right? Is, okay, data is expanding.
Yep.
It's expanding fast, as we talked about. Okay, what do we do with this?
Yes.
Right. And to make AI effective, it needs data.
Yep.
Right. But, how do I know it's the right data?
Yep.
So it's kind of that spring cleaning kind of scenario is what are you going to do with what's in the closet? How are you going to reorganize it? What are you going to put into the waste, rot, as we might call it, redundant, obsolete, and trivial.
Yep.
And do that in a smart way. And the thing that we've been doing is one organization, about 20,000 users, was going to save $2.3 million annually
There you go.
with and the lights just went off. So, but $2.3 million annually in storage optimization.
Wow.
By doing the right things and deciding what was going to stay in the closet and what was going to move out of the closet. And
so your spring cleaning example is great because yes, there's a one-time cleanup activity or multiple time cleanup activity that you should take as spring cleaning. But you know what's better, Kevin? If you put it in the right place in the first place, then you don't have to do the spring cleaning. So that's why in an ideal world, right? In an ideal world, we wouldn't have to do spring cleaning. In an ideal world, your data is already managed and tagged in a life cycle, and you're only keeping what you have to keep. And what you don't have to keep, you're not waiting till spring cleaning to get rid of it. You actually know when it's time to get rid of it, right? So in an ideal world, that's what we should be doing. And of course, we know the benefits. It's not just lower costs, but you're reducing old legacy data that may be popping up in Copilot answers. You're getting better, more accurate results. And of course, less operational overhead because you're not doing these spring cleaning exercises so often. But we know that's hard to do, right? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But these sorts of information management is something that usually gets kicked down the road. So this is where we have a comprehensive data strategy that both understand that the exponential growth of data is never going to stop. So what are the rules and automations we need to put in place to manage it going forward, not just as a one-time cleanup activity, but also understanding that information lifecycle management, data lifecycle management is a key to this. And the way we do this is understanding, shifting from just one-time spring cleaning events, exactly like you said, there's a great segue,
ongoing,
into an ongoing information lifecycle. And that ties back to the example that Kevin shared before about putting those processes in place for the records retention, records management,
automated policies.
I shouldn't just say records. There's a lot of other types of information to manage too, but it's very easy to do a scan, and we'll show you how easy it is to do a scan in just a second and uncover where your redundant, obsolete, and trivial are. But the next step is taking action. Right. You've got to do something with it. That could be defensible deletion. It could be archiving. It could be shifting to cheaper storage. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. But the first step is understanding it, but then understanding, hey, we need to do something with this afterwards. So that comes back to our three-step approach. So when it comes to optimizing your storage, specifically for costs and security and efficiency, step one is you discover. So you can't manage what you don't measure. So if you don't know where your redundant and obsolete and trivial data is, you can't manage it. But then step two is to take action, actually do the cleaning house, move stuff out of the closet, as Kevin would say. And then finally, put the automation in place to maintain it going forward. So let's give you an idea of what that looks like. So I don't know if there's a particular example you want to talk through with this one, Kevin, but this is an example of us doing a data discovery report where we've been able to walk into an organization and help do a scan. You can do it on a subset of your data. You can do it on all of your cloud data, legacy file shares as well. We've got different content sources that are supported. But what you're seeing here is this is now giving us the map so we can figure out how we want to take action. This is telling us how much redundant data do we have? Where is the redundant data? Why is it redundant? Is it multiple copies of the same file, which by the way, we can do on fingerprinting, not just like a file name or anything like that. We can actually find duplicate copies of files. Obsolete, so obsolete being old files, out-of-date files that haven't been touched or viewed in a certain time, and these are customizable, which we'll show in a second. And trivial, stuff like cache files or files that don't have an extension, or just stuff, cruft, that generally accumulates in your file systems over time that's not adding any value.
Yeah. Tim, I may be jumping ahead, or maybe I'm not. It is expanding on the word maintain on your previous slide there. There are solutions that do this out there, right? There are other choices to make. Even within the Microsoft native platform, there are things you can configure and do.
You can do it with elbow grease if you really want. You can manually put people on it. You can write some PowerShell.
Yeah, moving things out of the closet physically. The thing I think that's been also pretty unique is being able to connect it to the measure piece and the analytics.
Yeah.
And being able to say, yes, I can do those three steps that you mentioned, but also understand the productivity and the use of that data, especially in a Gen AI kind of era that we live.
Yes.
Could you expand a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. So look, you're 100%. The cleanup actions shouldn't be disconnected from your discovery. But the first step is understanding that it's not a one size fits all, right? Like every organization has slightly different rules about what's valuable to them, every organization, even different business units. And this is an important part. When we talk about an organization, it's not just a tenant as a whole. Different agencies, different departments might have different thresholds for them about what's useful, what's relevant, different compliance needs, different regulation, depending on how it's structured. So first thing is being able to customize, and this is something that AvePoint works with organizations to help define, but there is a WYSIWYG step through wizard to help do this as well. But defining your own rules about what's redundant, obsolete, trivial. We have templates out of the box. We have starter kits to get you started, but you have full control in maintaining this and making sure that this is fit for purpose. Yeah. Okay. So being able to do that deep scan, and that is where having that strong data foundation helps you make those decisions on how are we going to maintain this going forward. So setting up automation rules, you can't set up an automation rule unless you know what kind of action that you're wanting to take, right? Like unless you know what you want to do with that data. What is the data? What do I want to do with it? And then we can set up the action rules. So you're right that it needs to be a related part of the process and something that can happen on its own. So with this, we've got dynamic business rules that help grow and expand with your organization to help you uncover that, help you understand where it is, but then also help you act on it too. And again, these come with policy and regulation framework templates built in. We also have experience configuring them and helping organizations configure them, but essentially we can help you meet different sorts of compliance or business objectives in terms of, okay, well, now that we've discovered this rot data, are we archiving it? Are we moving it off? Are we tagging it or using the out-of-the-box classification and tagging tools and letting the Microsoft ecosystem do its thing? There's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to execute it. But ultimately, what this is now doing is saving your team time on trying to write their own discovery scripts, trying to run these discovery scripts and make sense of them, and then also trying to taking action at scale, being able to find we walk into a lot of organizations that have over 200,000 site collections, 30 million documents or more, like petabytes. There's millions and millions of documents in that.
Yeah.
How do you implement that change at scale? And this is something our platform's built for. So.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, you talk about automation, you talk about scale, you talk about security, right? I'm reminded of a company that we worked with in the aerospace and defense industry. We'd been partnered with them for a number of years in modernizing and moving data as they were changing their organization, restructuring, merging different companies. Great partnership with them. And they were doing many of the things that you just described here using the out-of-box technology. They were doing that in a manual way with labor hours against that. They ran into a scale opportunity.
Quickly we see that. Yes.
Right. And we worked with them recently to unlock this capability because they're already using the current platform. They're already using the platform for other functions and data modernization, moving data. So now we're unable to just turn on another module within the platform to help them automate this aspect of it.
Perfect. Yeah. One of the other things, the flip sides of this as well, is not just tagging for either retention or for compliance reasons, but again, for cost saving reasons. There may be a large swath of data in your environment, maybe some of that temporary files or those trivial files, I should say. Maybe you're not ready to get rid of them yet. Maybe you need to keep them longer.
You want to keep some things in the closet.
You want to keep some things in the closet, but maybe get a cheaper closet, right? So some of these cloud storages can be quite expensive, but there are much more cost-effective alternatives out there, such as Azure, Amazon, even really basic stuff like SFTP. Not that I think we'd recommend that straight out the gate, but it's there. It's doable. But essentially, this is where now you can intelligently move files to storage. It's not just picking up entire folders or departments and trying to drag and drop them over into storage. Now we can set up discovery and rules based in terms of time, type, ownership, status, and then make intelligent decisions about what we move off into cheaper storage. And you can retrieve it. It's an archive function, but this is another way to reduce the burden on the more expensive collaborative cloud storage costs into something a bit more long-term and cheaper.
Awesome.
And by the way, all of this has reports and is defensible in terms of giving you full transparency and visibility, both to you and also shared accountability with your departments.
It's a big thing. Yes. Yeah, because being able to automate this, but then also take the reports and send that over if necessary to legal, right? So they can see how things have been changed, the policy, the parameters, that are in place, and then what actions were taken.
Yep. Legal compliance, but also sharing that accountability with individual departments, agencies, and businesses as well. So yep, being able to take that out. So yeah, and this shows ROI. This helps you show the savings that you're able to achieve from moving files out into cheaper storage, and gives you a good, you can see there a visible estimate in orange of the yearly savings of how many files were moved out to cheaper storage, what that cost was, and what the savings are. So that is a great way to be able to show the changes that are being made as well. And then, as Kevin was saying, maintaining. So this is where, all right, now we have the tools to automatically and dynamically discover them. We have the tools to automatically take action of them. And now we can set up rules about how often we want that to happen and what we want to happen. And again, this is perfectly safe to do, defensible deletion, because it's fully audited, fully controlled. You've got full reports of everything that's happening. You can set up delays and approvals and all sorts of stuff to make sure that you feel comfortable. But this is a great way to then maintain cleaning house. So the packet of beans goes into the pantry, the packet of beans expires, it automatically goes into the bin. We don't have to we don't have to go and take action manually. And this also has the advantage of reducing the administrative overhead too. So instead of someone being responsible for going through for this governance and trying to run these reports and take these actions periodically, by happening automatically across these different content sources, you can see here, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, Exchange, physical records, file system, many different supported formats, but this reduces significantly cross-platform burden, cross-platform management, the periodic exercises that need to be done, and all of that is now reduced into a simple dashboard, saving time, saving costs. All right. Now, along a similar vein, another place that we've helped our clients save on costs and efficiency is when it comes to their backup. So these two topics kind of go hand in hand, in the sense that many organizations don't have their information lifecycle under control, so they are managing a lot of information that they don't need to be managing. They could be moving that off, but that also impacts your backup. So it's critical for your resilience strategy. A resilience strategy isn't just back up everything and we're good, right? There's a more pragmatic approach to that, where you understand we have some serious critical data, right? Some mission critical data, which is high impact, high visibility. If we have an outage, we've seen instances I don't want to say CrowdStrike, but something like the WannaCry or those, ransomware viruses. We've seen some organizations that have such big repositories of data that if they wanted to get everything back, it's going to take, weeks, if not months, sometimes, depending on what sort of backup strategy that you've used. However, with things like, the Microsoft Backup Express APIs that we can leverage for instant backup, as well as other kinds of backup opportunities or resilience opportunities, you can create a strategy that recognizes, our mission critical data or our high value data. We can move to the super ultra fast recovery option, so we can come back within hours or whatever it is. But also we recognize we've got other types of data that we have different kinds of backup and archiving strategy on. We don't necessarily have to back up everything. So
yeah, there's three things that I see customers talk to us about a lot in the government space. One is what you talked about in that security, that cybersecurity defense, that resilience. Two, the ability to manage against potential errors, right? That may be human errors or just system errors that happen, and to restore to a good point. And three is preservation of data as people are moving within our organization, in, out, consolidation of organization. Is how do I preserve that knowledge? How do I preserve that data? If there's a call back into that knowledge base, that data, how do I retain it?
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's even called litigation hold in some scenarios, but to be able to have that resilience against cyber, that resilience against human errors, and then also that resilience in the constant change of organization and business and the market.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great intro into the next area, which is where we're talking about having a single pane of glass for that, reduces that overhead, gives you that insight into what you're backing up and what you need to hold, legal hold, that kind of thing. So being able to have your data discovery in one pane of glass that shows you where your data is, making sure you know what your rot data is, and you're not backing up stuff you don't need to, at least not to the high speed, high priority backups, while also at the same time understanding your risk and security and legal requirements, right? So The other aspect of that, which we'll get into a little bit later, is talking about the engagement analytics as well. Because sometimes, if you want to be prioritizing and optimizing your backup strategy or your resilience strategy for cost, and you want to be optimizing for your most used, most important data, sometimes that isn't always obvious on the surface, and you need to have some deep analytics into where users are actually using and modifying and where that critical data is, and that's where your analytics engines comes in. But yeah, having that in a single pane of glass, such as what we do at the AvePoint platform, gives you, the full protection status of how your different workspaces and workloads across the organization are being protected, understand what the location and type of data is so you can prioritize those accordingly, and then being able to take advantage of multiple different backup strategies within one overarching resilience strategy to optimize that. And that's a way we've helped some organizations save some costs.
It's a good point. We've covered a lot of ground here in the past 34 minutes or so. This is all in a single platform.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and a single, and if we just spend a minute on this picture is, or pictures, this is a single platform, a single security package that, an organization go through to access the ability to move data, to modernize that data, to manage that data, like we talked about, information lifecycle, to protect that data in that management vein too, and then to measure it, which you're starting to get into a little bit here from an analytics perspective.
Yes.
And Tim, you're showing here on the screen is alive in a slideshow, but that's a picture of the platform. Right. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing through this.
So what we're seeing is we're seeing both coverage and growth. So we're able to, from one pane of glass, instead of having to go to multiple cloud systems and multiple areas to understand, all right, where's my legacy data, but also where's my data growing in different repositories, and also what workloads am I protecting and how am I prioritizing them. Now you can get it from a single view.
Yeah, when I think about trade-offs is that you can make or buy it, right?
Yep.
And many organizations, which I think there's a prompt here just a few minutes ago in a poll, is like, you'll have all these different point solutions in your environment to do a certain task, right? Yeah. How are you able to achieve efficiencies and reducing the number of tools that you have, while also increasing the automation on your data, increasing your data security posture? And that's the thing that brought me to AvePoint too, is that first thing I talked to you about is how do we solve for that unlocking of the data, and the power of data. And while you need to be able to have some automation against managing data and doing that in a secure and in a scale way.
Absolutely. All right, now we'll shift gears for a minute away from storage and data, specifically to licensing. So this is another area that's rife with opportunity for cost savings and streamlining. What we see typically when it comes to licensing, specifically in cloud platforms like Microsoft, where there's a lot of different options in terms of licensing and features and how you layer them on. Some of the challenges that we hear from our clients include, there's a lot of different licensing options, a lot of different ways to to purchase licenses, but it's difficult to manage them, right? It's difficult to get a good single pane of glass view into what's being used where, what's utilized, what's underutilized, and is my spend being effective? We hear from some of our customers, especially in the Copilot era, that they have licenses. They know there's licenses out there, but they're unsure about what's being utilized well. Am I getting a good ROI on whether it's enabling users for Power Platform, or whether it's enabling users for Copilot or other kinds of productivity tools? There's always a question around, is this an effective use? Like, is this particular user getting the most out of it? And what we find is actually there's quite a number of users who have licenses they don't feel they're getting the most out of.
Right.
So
yeah, I was at a conference last week, and one of the speakers talked about his implementation of AI at his company, and he says, I'll take half of the use cases if I can increase the ROI and productivity out of those. If I have 40 use cases and I can have it to 20 and I can get more productive in ROI, I'll do that.
Yes. And actually that's a great point about how do you track and show that ROI. So one of the things that how we help our customers tackle this is providing both reporting and control. So a centralized dashboard that you can also use distributed out to either departments or agencies to manage their own costs if you want to do a chargeback, or being able to, first of all, get visibility into what's happening. Where are the licenses going? What are the licenses? How much is being spent on them? Where are they being used? That's the visibility reporting aspect. But then also the control. How can we, manage them, make sure they're being delegated effectively, and get them used correctly? So let's get into it. So first of all, one of the things that we're able to do is going from a limited single view into a full pane of glass, right? So being able to see a full summary of all the different licenses, whether it's E5, enterprise mobility and security, across the entire environment. So one of the things that we've seen is that a lot of customers find the out-of-the-box reporting a little bit vague, which can be a little bit confusing or a little bit difficult to manage. So by getting a clear visibility into where the licensing are, helps show the cost per user, cost per license, and some of those critical business metrics that our customers are often looking for. By being able to pull subscription-based reports, you can identify usage and adoption by the different subscription types. So again, you can see the different subscriptions that have been purchased, how many users are using them, whether they're active or inactive, and what the current unit cost is. And then being able to break that out, not just by users, but also by business as well. So you can get a per user view to understand either on a tenant level or an email address level. You can do this as exports if you want to be able to track it regularly or be able to provide reporting to different business owners on their consumption. You can show this versus underutilized premium licenses. So maybe some particular users have premium SKUs for things like Power BI, but they're not actually accessing the systems and not actually getting usage out of it. That's a great opportunity to reallocate that license to someone else who's requesting one. So it doesn't mean purchasing an additional license, but reallocating one that we can now provably show is not being used to its full effect. Similarly, like I said, price book management. So being able to show all the different subscriptions and promotions, other kinds of things that are happening across the environment, and being able to set what unit license cost to be, and being able to track that. And finally, being able to have budget management as well. So this is particularly useful for large agencies or large departments that have multiple regions, maybe have a chargeback schema, want to be able to set budgets for certain areas or certain spend and be able to track against those budgets, something that's typically difficult to do out of the box. There's some manual uplift needed to be able to watch and track that. This makes it a lot easier, and being able to delegate that out to the business as well with shared accountability.
Yeah, we were working with an agency recently, a government agency, about 100,000 users, and through some analysis that we're running using the capabilities that you shared here, Tim, it's over $5 million a year.
Wow,
in cost savings by just optimizing for the usage and the licenses and how they're mapped to users.
Perfect. The other side of that as well. So we've got the actual management of the licenses, so visibility of the licenses, management of the licenses. But another important part to understanding where are we getting ROI, where is it being used, is in the actual usage analytics as well. So again, this is all on the same platform. Being able to get deep usage analytics, so kind of like what you get with Viva Insights, but taking it to that next level of being able to look at relationships between how different products are being used, break that down by departments and region in your business specifically, so you can see it for specific areas. This one here is an example of a Copilot adoption dashboard, and you can see it provides additional metrics over and above the out-of-the-box stuff by being able to show things like what percentage of users are actually adopted, how many are not using, how are we tracking over time, are there particular areas which are going better, but also breaking into adoption metrics like consistency, frequency, and breadth. So where are we really seeing that usage, not just on someone using Copilot Chat, but across the different apps like Copilot for Word, Copilot for Excel. And we can break this down across all the different Office applications as well. So who's a heavy user of Outlook, who's a good, but not a high user of Teams, who's a good candidate for change management.
Right. Absolutely.
Moving on, which also gives you insights into your security as well, in terms of how users are interacting with their files.
Yeah, it's connecting those that maintain and that measure aspect of it.
Exactly. So just wrapping up quickly on the licensing so we can get through the rest of the content in the time we've got. One of the ways that a very quick win that we're able to do with a number of organizations is give you instant visibility into your licensing per user cost, per unit cost, your subscription, your overages, your usage, and then being able to break that down by your departments as well, so you can manage that and budget it going forward. Cloud infrastructure management. So again, one of the ways that we see that it's actually quite popular with AvePoint is consolidating legacy systems. So taking, if you've got, or even not even legacy systems, just multiple disparate systems. So
I was going to make that.
Yeah,
it took me there.
So we're always of the, there's different minds about having eggs in one basket.
That's Tim's house, actually.
Yeah, I wish. I wish this was mine. I would love to have lawn on top of the garage. Looks like AI, I think. There's different schools of thought about the eggs in different baskets and different pros and cons and best in breed tools and that kind of thing. We at AvePoint, we're always of the case of maximizing the value of what you've already got. So if you have a Microsoft 365 license, you have collaborative tools, chat tools, planner tools, task-based tools. There's a lot of functionality in there. And the more you use it, the more exponential it gets. Unified search, unified security, unified posture management, reduced surface area. So we always recommend to our clients that there's great advantages from taking your legacy cloud or other clouds in like Box and other areas and consolidating them into something like a Microsoft 365. We think there's great advantages of that. But oftentimes where organizations come to us for help is getting started, right? Like a migration project is usually pretty big. So I'm sure many people on the line are familiar with migration projects, so we can move through a little bit quickly, but there's a number of considerations about what needs to be migrated, how much needs to be migrated. Are we going to do it manually, or are we going to leverage tools such as the AvePoint platform? How are we going to maintain permissions and maintain security across platforms? And of course, when do we have to do it by? What's our project resourcing cost? So there's a lot that goes into a migration. It's not just moving files over. There's volume, there's content, there's time, there's budget, there's a lot of things. And essentially, this is something that we do a lot. So we're able to work with you and help you do that. So we've had, we've got a lot of experience in helping customers get online, whether you're prioritizing speed, prioritizing cost, prioritizing, fidelity. Ultimately, we try to get all three as best we can, but we can work with you on the priorities and the things that you've got to make sure that a consolidation effort is both cost saving in terms of reducing that overhead from the other clouds, but also in terms of the effort on the project.
Yeah, get it done right.
Yes.
Get it done, in an efficient manner, but then also have a persistent capability to manage that data and to measure that data so you can apply it to even AI use cases.
Correct. And again, that's something that obviously we have a platform for, we have a lot of experience with, but I'll keep things moving since most people are familiar with migration projects. And let's spend the next few minutes just talking about infrastructure management. So one of the things that we covered a lot about was automation and automating your data. And we talked about that from a file level approach before in terms of individual files and, the discovery of them, retention, archiving. However, there's a lot to say about at the workspace or general M365 level too. If we think about the operational overheads that go into managing the creation of workspaces, whether the security is correct on the configuration, requests for external users, or requests for changes to the site, what we find and what Gartner backs up is that 2/3 of customers who are using Microsoft 365 use at least one third-party add-on, if not more, to manage their Microsoft 365 environment. And some of the challenges that come out of that is they're looking for more help with supporting and governing their large M365 environment. Content sprawl is a big issue. IT staff to manage it is a big issue. And, it's difficult to maintain adoption, right?
Yeah. This is where I was talking about that over $3 million a year earlier on.
Exactly. And also the less than 10% of E5 licenses felt like they were getting full maximum value out of them. And again, it's about how do we know where they're being used and why they're being used and make sure they're being allocated correctly. Of course, one of the challenges with that is that in Microsoft 365, we know that the security settings are set across multiple admin consoles, from tenant consoles to site settings, to document library settings, to individual file settings. Misconfiguration is easy. This opens up vulnerabilities, but it also creates a lot of additional overhead in terms of trying to manage and control that. And there's always that seesaw balance between open everything up and then try and chase and fix it later, or lock everything down and create a lot of overhead for users, a lot of overhead for IT to make requests. But either way, it's causing a lot of burden on the IT department. So how can we operationalize and make that go a bit faster? So what we'll do there, I'll just skip on through here. So when we're talking about successful governance or successful operational governance and saving time and money in M365 is how do we enable some self-service for our users and bring the users into the fold in terms of provisioning and make it easy for them? How can we track all the sites and workspaces that are being created, have some attestation and not just let it all sprawl out forever, but just like we talked about having
Light went on.
the light came back on. Just like we talked about having lifecycle management of data, how can we have lifecycle management of our workspaces and check in with the workspace owners periodically and say, hey, do you still need this? Is it still relevant? Are these users still supposed to be here? Do we need to shut this site down, or what are we doing with this? And then, of course, that has implications on compliance as well. So one of the things that we'd like to help one of the things that we do help our organizations and our customers implement is self-service enablement for their users, being able to balance that control between IT and delegating it out with automation, and then providing those guardrails for ongoing governance. So we'll just give you a quick example of that because I know we're sort of running up against time, but if we talk about these three areas, provisioning, management, and lifecycle, the best way to get this involved, you can do create and chase if you want to create your team sites and make them come up later. But what we're showing you here is within Teams, a user is able to hit a quick button and request a team. And this is not just like an IT ticket. This is a full backend automation. So the user's now getting involved in the process. They're typing the business justification for the site, why they need it, what it's for. They're given all of these options. We have them out of the box with templates that you can implement. However, you can also configure these for your business rules as well. Just need to make sure that's still going ahead. Yep, it has full approval. And again, these are set up by your business, whether you want department heads or certain business units or someone in IT and different policies. So not only is the user getting involved in this, and we're not taking away their ability to provision a site, we're making it easy for them to just click next a few times and provision a site, but now we're capturing critical governance data at the point of creation that we can use to automate. So what is it for? Who is it? How often are we checking in on it? Who are we checking in with them with? What's the security and sensitivity? So not only is this reducing all the work that a lot of IT teams do manually today when it comes to both provisioning, but also trying to chase up the sprawl afterwards. But now we can automate not just the provisioning, but now we can automate renewals and recertifications and attestations and make sure that we've got those automated processes in place to give us that full security overview. So being able to get a single pane of glass of where are your external users, what's being shared with who, how do we prioritize risk? So up here, you can see just from a simple scan of your environment, again, single pane of glass, you can see highly exposed and highly sensitive. We have a number of items or workspaces or areas that we need to address straight away.
That's right.
And this doesn't just report on them, you can take action from here as well. So being able to manage and automate your workspaces, manage and automate your security, you're not having to write PowerShell scripts to go and clean up permissions. You can immediately get visibility and take it from here.
Never seen that done before.
And then finally give you that full visibility into something like AI readiness. So we've come full circle from cost savings into getting your data ready for Copilot and AI. Just hit play here. So being able to see from one single pane of glass, how's our adoption of our licenses going? Are they being applied effectively? Are they being applied safely? Do we have our workspaces under control with sensitive data? Do we have any redundant, obsolete, or trivial data in the environment which might affect results? And by the way, what are some intelligent AI-driven recommendations on what we should do next to either implement policies or do a cleanup or put that maintenance in place, which takes a lot of that legwork and guesswork and manual labor out of these kinds of initiatives.
Absolutely.
All right. So I know we're almost at time. This brings us into the wrap up. So
back to the framework.
Back to the framework. So when it comes to helping our clients and organizations and agencies with looking for ways to improve efficiencies, reduce cost while increasing their security, first of all, storage. Do a discovery scan, find your redundant, obsolete, and trivial. You can immediately clean up old files that you don't need, take action. It could be deleting, it could be archiving off to cheaper storage if you're not ready to delete yet. It could be implementing proper retention and archiving policies. Then that impacts your backups as well. So you can not just have a backup everything, including all the junk that we don't need. have a resilient strategy that prioritizes your important data now that you know what your important data is, while also having a plan for your other data. Licensing, single pane of glass view of your licensing, understand what goes where, what's being utilized and underutilized, where you're spending. This is another quick win. Very easy to get a handle on places you may have missed with your licensing, and being able to stay on top of that with price book and budgeting and external reports. And then, of course, infrastructure management, whether that's cloud consolidation via migration, so you're reducing legacy or duplicative systems into a single platform, reduces overhead, improves security spend, reduces licensing spend across multiple platforms, but also bringing that together gives you the opportunity for more automated governance, which again reduces further overhead and burdens on security and compliance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So that brings us just about to the end. Again, this is something that we help a lot of clients with. We can do free scans. That's one of the things that we offer, to be able to come in and help you do an assessment and find areas to save costs and actually give you a personalized ROI report. So look at do an assessment of what you're looking at now. What you have now, how much you're spending on it, and what the potential cost savings could be. So I think we did an ROI report recently for some governance overhead, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we have. And I think, there's my email address. Why call back to what I started with, why I came to AvePoint. I came to AvePoint because I saw organizations struggle to make data work at scale. To make data work at scale because they had a burden with security, because they had a burden with managing data. I've come to AvePoint in the public sector organization because we want to help organization improve efficiency and trust with that data.
Yep.
And this is my offer to you all, either listening live here or on demand, is, help us, or we'll help you with this, right? Yep. This is not a, here's the price of a product or anything like that. This is a partnership.
Yes.
To walk through a framework, to do some analysis, to understand the trade-offs that each organization has to make. And they're very unique, right? What we found is not every organization is the same. And that's where we can use this platform and our approach, our framework, to recognize some of those choices and see where we can apply people, process, and technology.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Gia.